Okay. Okay, welcome everybody. Oh, I got somebody else joining us. Welcome everybody. I'm Jeannie Edmonds. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of NextTribe. I'm happy to have y'all here for this discussion with somebody that I've been wanting to talk to for a long time. Susie Lang is an extraordinary photographer on her own of doing people out in the wild and headshots and so forth, but she also used to be a therapist, and she applies her therapy background to getting the best shots of women over 60, because she does have, and I had it in the chat before, she has a, what is the name of your Instagram account again?
Women.60.plus.
Women.60.plus, right? And I'm going to share my screen here in a little bit so you can see some of her pictures. And I'm also going to allow you to share if you have anything you want to share with us.
Oh.
But there's something really special about, let me just back up. I was introduced to Susie by Stephanie, a friend of ours, a friend of NextTribe's, who runs a modeling agency called Celebrate the Gray. And Stephanie, I'm so grateful for this introduction, because Susie is someone I've been following for a long time on Instagram. I was a fan, a super fan, and now I'm here. And we can get the wisdom of all of her knowledge of how to take the best pictures and, you know, how to make yourself look good as an old lady on camera. But before I get to that, let's back up a little bit. And Susie, and tell us how you, first, what made you decide to become a therapist, and then how did you make the switch?
Oh, I just say, Alec, can you mute, please? Okay. Thanks. Thank you, sweetheart. So I'm sorry, I missed that because there
So the question was, how did you get first, what led you into therapy in the first place, and how did that transition into photography?
Well, when I was a teenager, I was just telling this to somebody today. When I was a teenager, I was very impressed with the woman who was the therapist at the nursing school that I was working at. I was training as a registered nurse, and she had a beautiful big desk in her own office. And I thought, wow, that would be a cool job at 16, 17, 18, when I began my nursing career. And of course, I didn't go straight into that, but her name was Jo Brown, and such an ordinary name, but she was a mighty powerful woman, and I used to visit her a lot, and I was very impressed just by the way she sat and listened to me. It's like, my goodness, I've never had that before in my life as a teenager. And so I then, from that point on, I had a failed first marriage. I went traveling, backpacking throughout Europe, and just had my camera attached to my hip. And then when I relocated to the UK for a while, and I was working as a sick children's nurse. And in that actually involved going to look after older people in their homes. And so I did that. And so I guess there was a little bit of therapy involved in that when you're working, with people who are dying, basically. And so I got a lot of experience, and lovely experience. I learned how to cook when I was doing that, because they wanted food, and I was the provider of that. And then from then, when I was in the UK, I did my bachelor's degree in counselling, and then when I moved to the US in 2004, I went to NYU and got a master's in mental health counselling and wellness. And the flip side of that was that I always had a camera attached to my hip, and as a small girl, 10, I grew up on a farm. I have 4 brothers, and my father was a very keen sportsman. He was a very good sportsman, and he wanted photographs of himself. and doing all of his sporting activities. And the boys weren't that interested, so I just grabbed the camera and started taking pictures of him. Fast forward, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and I've just had the combination has been around for me ever since. I'm trying to sort of...
Up to that time, when you walked into that therapist's office, you saw the big desk, you were an impressionable teenager. There is really something in that moment when an adult actually listens to you and cares about what you're saying, right? And it's usually somebody outside of your family, huh? That's what happens.
Absolutely. And I've never forgotten her. So this is nearly 50 years ago, over 50 years ago. And she made such an impression on me. And, she was beautifully groomed and very calm. Sometimes I'm not so calm, but, but she was very impressionable. I was very impressed with her. And so
it sounds like also you have, excuse me for interrupting, it sounds like you also, because you grew up on a farm, you told me earlier when we talked, when we were setting up the interview, that you grew up in Australia. I guess we could see the accent. You still have a little bit of an accent. And so you grew up in a rural area, in a farm. Your father was a sportsman, but something drew you to the camera. You were documenting him kind of in a photojournalist way, or was it really more portraits of him that you were doing?
A more photojournalist, really, while he was swinging, because he was a really exceptional golfer, and just trying to get his swing, and every golfer loves to see they've got a good swing, and then he moved from that to speedboat racing. And of course, he always liked to cross the finish line first. And so if I could get a shot of that, he was really impressed with my skills. But often back then, as a 10, 11, 12-year-old, it was just pure luck. Not too much planning in that one.
Well, then you could have been a sports photographer. That could have drawn you into sports photography. But it sounds like you were drawn to a profession that involved caring, your connection with other people.
Yeah.
Are you one of those people that sort of feeds on your connection to other people? Do you draw energy from your relationships with other people, even if they're little brief encounters, during the day with somebody in a grocery store or something? Is that something that really rings your chimes?
I love people. I just love, and for me, it's a way of interacting with the world. And I can look. I met a woman today that a couple of weeks ago. I was having lunch, and I noticed this woman, and I walked past and was having lunch with my friend, and she came up to the table and said, "Oh my God, Susie Lang, I've been stalking you." And so now I forgot your question.
It was about you were drawn to the caring arts, basically the healing arts, your connection to people. You're not one of those people who could be in a back room with an accounting ledger or something. You need to be.
No, that's not me. I'll leave that to somebody who loves numbers. But I definitely love people connection. And actually, in my counseling practice and my photographic, it's really the art of connection. And I think that in relationship with another person, that I myself can get a lot of feedback and input and energy, as you speak about, and it's really the connection that really works so well for me.
Now, when you look through the viewfinder in a camera, you're looking at a woman of a certain age. And I'm going to ask you in a minute about what drew you to taking pictures of women this age. But when you look through the viewfinder at the woman versus looking at the woman without the camera in the middle, what's different?
Well, it's a good question, and I think that let me use it today as an example, and this woman, her name is Jackie, and she has an energy, and I didn't have my camera, I didn't have my camera at all. I thought, wow, it's like I can feel the energy, I can feel the presence of somebody, and I can, and I say to myself, oh, I wish I had my camera to capture that. And so the it's sort of an organic process, really. And I can notice that I walk the streets of New York, and I see so many women and of course men who are, they just radiate. And of course, there's some people who don't, and it's a very multicultural and multi-feelinged city when you walk in the streets. But it fills me up to really be in touch with and notice and gain something from their presence. Somebody once said to me, you don't. The cool thing about you is you don't know how cool you are, and of course that really. I was so touched by that, because I'd never really noticed that for myself, but somebody else is noticing that in me, and I like that with Jackie today. She has a presence, and she has, she's very spirited and wants to try different things and do all that. So, of course, when I put the camera in front of anybody, there's a lot of anxiety, because it's a camera.
Somebody's going to be a good subject just by their personality, but maybe you can tell also if somebody's going to be difficult to draw something out of them. And this certainly happens with women over a certain age. You don't want your picture taken.
Mm-hmm. Just an experience that I had when I was in Australia many years ago, probably back in 2018, I think. And the woman who I photographed was, her daughter lives in New York. And so we were friends here. And she said, oh, I so want my mother to have a photograph taken by you. And so, of course, then I go to Australia, and we organised to meet. And she said, I hate having my photograph taken. Okay. And she doesn't like it at all. She doesn't want this and she doesn't want that. And really, I'm not signing any release forms. So, basically get what you want and then go. And she, she was very polite about it. But so she just hated the idea of she felt intimidated by my lenses. So in actual fact, she looks a little bit like Meryl Streep. And so, of course, when she's out and about, people will come up to her and say that, and she sometimes has a picture on in a magazine, in a paper, and it might be a good photograph, and yet people criticize that. And so I really worked hard to try and get a good image of her. And I love to play with it, because it's meant to be fun. I want it to be fun. And so I get back to New York and I edit the pictures and I send her the pictures. And she wrote back to me, said, oh, okay, so you're quite good at what you do. And there's one or two pictures that I really like, and one that I'm going to frame for my husband so that he can have it on his desk. He's a judge. And so, it was like the idea that she wanted that, but it was I had to be very tender with her to get some sort of something that she was happy with, actually. The photographs that she was happy with was when her children were pre-teen, and now they're like 40 and 50 years old. So, it's a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, you know how photographers of young children, they always have the little puppets, they have all the little tricks that they do around the cameras. So what do you do I remember having a headshot taken, and the guy was telling me, turtle your neck out. You have to like go back and then turtle your neck out, and then also laugh out loud and make the sound of the laugh. And that looks more authentic, like a real smile, if you actually make the sound of laughter.
Right.
So what are some of your tricks? Oh, maybe you don't want to give them away though.
No, I'm fine to give away because I don't have many, because it depends on each individual person. But the one thing that I know that really cracks women up is that I take one or two shots. I say, right, that's it, I'm done, I've got the best shot ever. And they say, really? And so what I then do is go and show them the image. This is how I see them. And most women will say, oh, they're quite surprised.
Mhm.
And others say, oh, I don't like this and I don't like that. And I said, well, let's do something different. Let's work, let's play a bit, let's take us a little while to get into our rhythm, just trying to do step by step, getting them through that real anxiety. Because even some women that I photographed, who I photographed many times, they get anxious every time until I've taken the first couple of shots. And
Well, keep talking for a minute because I'm going to share. Oh, somebody just wanted to come in. I'm going to share my screen because I want to share your Instagram. I want to share your Instagram account on here. Hold on just one second. Keep talking for a second. Yeah, keep talking about the people, like the people that you see the most and look at. Okay, here's your account on here. Can everybody see here? Look, here's this woman's beautiful. Look at that. That's a nice little black and white. Can you see it, Susie?
I can see that. And actually, Susan I met in 2018, and she was one of the first women that I photographed in New York. And amazingly, she just lives along the street from me, and we've been trying to get in contact ever since. And we met up yesterday, and this picture I took is such a beautiful picture of her that I just had to post it. We've organized to do a proper shoot, but this was on my phone. It was so beautiful. And she's 71.
What?
Yes.
Well, it's such a natural looking photo. There's something about the black and white also that forces you to concentrate on the eyes. Right? Isn't that? And let's see what else you got here. Here's a woman. She's beautiful. Love the color. Look at the color. Look at how bold she is. She
Right.
looks
This was at the Easter Bonnet Parade, one of my favorite parades in New York City. And we were just standing outside a store, and the store window kept changing color. And I was like, she was just in this gorgeous hot pink, and there the window changed color. I thought, wow, it's a perfect shot. It's about sort of just being a little patient and waiting. And New York is such a mecca for wonderful outdoor photography and locations, because it's just a gift, really a gift.
This one looks like it's from a magazine as well. You got a series of shots on here, but I was thinking that first one really looks like it's from. Look at this variety of women that you've done, and they all look. Oh, look at her. They all like sassy, badass women. I love it. But you're bringing that out. And look at her. She looks joyful. There's a lot of joy when you look at her. Although look at her. She looks like she's hiding a little bit, behind there. They want to hide behind the doorway a little bit.
Sure. And actually I often use that as a prop, behind the door, because often the women feel comfortable with that. I don't want to intimidate them. The woman that you said looked a little uncomfortable on here. So she had Bell's palsy, and it took a lot.
Could you please? I don't. Somebody's not muted here, and I can't unmute. Okay, here we go. Okay.
So she had Bell's palsy, which is a facial palsy, and she was very shy. And to get that beautiful photograph of her, I was really touched by that photograph. Absolutely gorgeous of her. And she loved it, so that was good. So that was one of my first reels. This woman in the yellow, can we show that
Okay.
Oh, no, it's a whole reel. Okay.
Yeah.
Give you more.
Women are like, they're having a time. Look at her. Classy. Really do. Look at that woman. The curiosity in her face is just, there's some variety in the way that you shoot them and the attitudes that they have. That seems to, I don't know these women at all, but I feel like, especially this woman, look at her. I know who she, like Jeannie Ralston. She's like the founder and extra. That's what she'd be doing.
Right. Well, she is in her. I think she told me the other day that she's going to be 77.
Wow.
So she's obviously, been a ballet dancer, a skater, an athlete in her life, and she goes out there. She looks amazing, and there's a group in Central Park that meet every Saturday and Sunday, and she's there just about every time.
Yes. And is there one on here, as I scroll down, is there one on here that you like the most?
Wow. Okay. So
who took that one?
Not me.
That's
so okay. I did that for a friend. The one with the woman in the pink, and she's got her hand up to her face like this, that one. Okay, so this is the gorgeous Sally Bass, who lives in Tucson, and she was born in Africa, and she lived in Australia. So of course we had a very sort of quick connection, and I texted her, I think before COVID, and I said, I'd really love to photograph you. And she said, yeah, that would be great. Come over. Then COVID happened. And then 2021, I was coming over and something happened about that. So we got together for the first time in 2022. And she's an amazing jeweler. She makes all those jewels that she's wearing. And she has a very good Instagram feed. And she was a lot of fun. And I just, she's larger than life. We connected really well. We have a lot of Australianisms in common. So we just hit it off like a house on fire. So it's joy to see her, and so many of the other women. Just I could tell you a story about each of them, but it'll take.
I bet you could, because you get to know them when they're front of your camera, right?
Right.
This woman looks like a model.
She's in her 60s, and she also, her name is Kristen, and she's she has a great Instagram feed and website, and she's a culinary expert, and so is very active in diet education and healthy living, and she's just delightful. I think there were about 4 of us who met in Pennsylvania, or Philadelphia, in December, for a magazine that we're all a part of, the Pro-Age Woman, and so we had to have a shot like Kristen and myself. That was me in the leather jacket for the front cover of the magazine. So I was the photographer, and there were 4 of us who had a weekend together. It was wonderful.
That is great. Let's see. Let's pick one more here, and then we'll go back and see if anybody has any questions. You certainly have a lot of women who seem to really be into fashion.
Yes.
It's like, they're bold with their fashion. Say, look at this woman. She's like, look at that. She's all colorful and.
Yes. Well, that's Sally Bass. That was the woman that I showed you.
Oh, that's the same woman.
Yes.
Yes. Nice. Let me find
the woman to her left. The woman to her, that one there. This is my sister-in-law in Australia, and she's a farmer, and really tough. I absolutely love this photograph of her. She never lets me take a photograph, but somehow when she was in her ute with her little truck, she was okay about it. She was like, I got 2 pictures, that was it, but no more.
Amazing. Well, so is the goal, do you find that when you're taking the pictures of these women, that they want to look as young as they feel? And so when they look at the pictures, they're kind of shocked that they're actually as old as they actually are. When you look in the mirror, you know how old you are. But oh, here's a message in the chat. You photographed my friend Susie, aka Sailboat Susie, who lived on board
Oh,
Tanya.
yes. Oh, no, beautiful Susie. In fact, I was messaging her just last week saying, when are you coming back to New York? Because she's fabulous, absolutely fabulous. Love her to bits. Yeah.
So back
I
to the
think,
point about making them younger. Do they have to feel like they look young in order to be satisfied with the photo?
no, I think what it is, it's nothing about, for me, it's nothing about looking younger or that, but actually when you're in connection with somebody and you connect with somebody and you're really heard by somebody, and the proof is in the pudding with the image that I present to them, the women just simply radiate. And in that, that's a very youthful glow, because I'm sort of currently looking at the idea of many women have been on hold for a long time. That a lot of women in their sort of teens and 20s have, children and family, and their main goal is that. And then they often put themselves on the back burner, and then when the children and the family sort of splits and goes to college or whatever, then often the women are left on their own, and it's like, wow, well, who am I now? What happened? Where did I go? And so what I'm working towards is trying to provide an opportunity to connect with women, to really give them an opportunity to really begin to see themselves as someone who's had lots of life experiences, raising children, being a spouse, being a co-worker, being, living life. And now all of a sudden they're 50, 60, and what now? What am I doing now? What am I doing for me? And so I love the idea of releasing the inner goddess that was very much around when we were much younger. And so if I can provide an opportunity to allow that, of course that youthful inner goddess will just shine. I've seen it many, many times. It's really, I get a lot of body felt senses. I get goosebumps with it, really.
That's wonderful. And that's what you're doing for them. You're finding the true inner goddess in them. But what I'm thrilled about actually is that you're also doing this to show them to society. I mean, by having this Instagram channel and by getting more exposure yourself for all of these headshots that you're doing, these portraits of these women, we're really redefining. And it's not about, I mean, I looked at that woman, I couldn't believe it. She was in her 60s or 70s, any of these women that are that older, but actually that's what it looks like. We're redefining. We're all healthier than we were in prior generations, I guess. Most of us are trying to take care of ourselves if we're blessed with good health. And I think the more we can get these images out there, the better. Because I work with a lot of startup companies, and I read something on LinkedIn the other day that said that here's what happens to women about, this is how gendered ageism works in the workplace. When you're young, you're too hot. When you're in your middle years, you're too fertile. And when you're old, you're old. And so we're like getting it on in all decades of our lives and in all decades of our careers. We're told we're not right. We're not a fit. But come on. I mean, we're here. We're loud. We're proud. We want to be out there. We want our pictures out there. We want people like you to take our headshots because you understand us.
Yeah, and I think, thank you. I'm working hard to try I'm working even harder to try and understand me first, but I think that when I started Women 60 Plus, it was about the sense of feeling invisible. And as years have gone by, I've been doing it for 6 years now, I realized that I was invisible to myself. And I was just trying to make a change for that, for myself. And then if I could do that for me, maybe I could, in my psychology brain, I can perhaps enable that in others. And it's my hope, actually.
Well, it seems that you have done it in the pictures. If the pictures are evidence of what you have done, I just feel like we know these women. We look at their pictures and you know their attitude. It just comes through, I think, in the portraits that you're doing. Does anybody, I want to stop for just a second because we're halfway through. I want to see if anybody has a question. You can unmute yourself and ask a question if you'd like. And welcome to everybody here. Don't be shy. Glenda, you got a question? I'm sure you do. Glenda always has a good question.
I mean, I wonder if I could ask a question to any of the women who are here. How has it been for you to have, photographs taken, portraits taken?
And you can unmute yourself. Oh, here comes Glenda. She's going to answer you. And we can't hear you, Glenda. Even though you're unmuted, we can't hear you. Ooh.
Just while we're trying to find Glenda, but Julia made a comment.
Yeah, let's see. Other than hiring a great photographer, what's your advice for getting a great photo?
I think that having a great photographer is, it's a relationship. It's a narrow window of maybe 2-3 hours or whatever you want. But I feel as though that the photographer has to work really hard to just say, here we are, let's do this. Often women like to be directed into which way he or she wants you to look. I would say the feedback that I've gotten from a big chunk of the women who I photographed is that they much prefer to be photographed by a woman, and I guess that's me, because that they're telling me that because I'm a woman and I have lived part of 66 years of being a girl, a woman, and on some level I feel as though there's an understanding that we can come about.
I can see that. I totally can see that. By the way, there's another question here. I really don't like taking photographs because I feel like I'm not that photogenic.
And I hear that such a lot. Who was that from?
It's from, I can't pronounce the name, in Kendalem.
Ildiko?
Yeah, Ildiko. Okay. All the time I hear I'm not photogenic, many times from beautiful, fit young ladies. It has not much to do with age and looks, really.
I hear it a lot. I don't look good in photographs, and to me that's a really lovely psychological thing and very deep to go into. And while I really hear what you're saying, Ildiko, I don't believe that. It's not that I don't believe you, but I don't believe that statement, because some of the women who I photographed, are not particularly attractive. And one of the first women that I took a photograph of, she was just very, very plain. And I went to her apartment, we had a cup of tea together, we chatted, I didn't bring my camera out. And in the beginning, she was a little, stiff and not relaxed. And by the end of the shoot, in 2.5 hours, she was just really playful. And so I think it's a lot to do with the connection and the relationship that you can have with each other. But if you feel as though and one thing that I would ask is there something that you really like about yourself? And so as a photographer, I try and aim to incorporate that and move around that and work with that. If there's something that you don't like, I don't particularly like my legs. So I say, I don't want a full body shot. No thanks. It can be upper body. And so I'm very particular about that. But I feel as though it takes a lot of time to really relax in front of the camera, and sometimes you can't. But the other thing that I often think about too is that when we were younger, and a lot of the young women today, they take selfies all the time, all that sort of stuff. What I would say is that for older women, we need to have a little bit more planned. Take a little bit more time. I know where to get the best shots because it's not in bright sunshine, and it's softer lighting, and it can be natural lighting or flash lighting, but it's very it has to be a little bit more structured.
And so there's a saying in television that the camera doesn't lie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when you see someone being interviewed on television, it's pretty easy to pick up on somebody when they're lying, because you can see it in their eyes. And so are you, when you're looking through the lens, are you trying to extract the truth of who that person is? You said you're bringing out their inner goddess, but are you bringing out the authentic person? And is that what makes a successful photo? Or is it the beauty, the composition? What is it that makes a successful headshot of a woman over 60?
I'll say it again. I think it's the connection that I can have with another woman.
No, but I'm in terms of the outcome, the final product. What makes the picture the best? Oh, you're saying the connection is what makes it a better picture.
Makes the best. And because the psychological part of that, I really believe is that, for so long women have been on hold, and no one's really paid the woman much attention. It's always the children or the this or the that, and that we have put ourselves on the back burner.
Right.
And all of a sudden I come along and putting out this the feelers that I want to photograph older women, because I feel as though I know for myself that I've been on hold for a long time, and I have a lot to share. And so I had some pictures taken the other day, just because it's good for me to practice being on the other side. I don't say it's my favorite thing, but because I know what I want to get from it, I can work with that. And there are a few that I really like. And so I think it depends. And, when you think about a photograph, it's just a nanosecond of time. And it could be just that. And it could be just one that somebody loves and doesn't like any of the others. A bit like the woman that I spoke to you about in Australia. She only liked one. Yeah. So that's one that I use.
Here's another comment. Right. It is their own low self-esteem coming from who knows where. I usually say, I've heard it too often, it's almost never true. So let us try to get some pretty photos of you as well. So it really is about this inner dialogue, back to that we're too hot, we're too fertile, we're too old. Even from childhood, where this internal dialogue that women have that continues through middle school. Are you wearing the right dress? Are you even should you wear a dress at all? Is your hair right? By the way, is hair the biggest problem that women have? It certainly would be my biggest problem in taking a picture. Is hair the biggest kind of barrier to making people feel good about how they look in a picture? Is that the first thing they usually go to?
No, I think that if I was photographing you, it probably would be. But, each of us have our own things that we don't particularly like. Someone might like their nose, or the other day I was photographing a woman and she said, my left eye is smaller than my right. How do you get around that? How can you make them look equal? And of course, I never noticed it, but she, of course, it was standing out like a big sore thumb for her. So, what I say about, if you're having a photo shoot and you're having something done to your hair, don't have it the day before. Don't have it cut, coloured, whatever. Have it done weeks before so you can grow into it, and so that you feel comfortable with it. If you feel comfortable about someone doing your makeup, do that. But otherwise, just do your own makeup, or someone that that you can rely on. Because at the end of the day, I want to get photographs of women that really represent to themselves their own essence, their own beauty. And that's what I work hard to try and achieve.
So you don't necessarily recommend that they have hair and makeup before they do a shot with you. You'd rather your type of portraits of women, they're more natural environment, not like this.
Well, I always say to the women, come as you want to be seen. Come as you, and that might be 2 outfits, for example. But come as you feel, that you radiate the most, because it's a very uncomfortable experience for a lot of women. And so I will go to them. So it's so that if they're being shot in the apartment, at least they have all of their stuff, and they can change if they don't like the look. And so it's I try and make it as pain-free as possible. And of course, in the beginning, it's pretty painful. And then once we get into our connection, the backwards and forwards and the humor, and because I get a lot of laughter. A lot of the women are laughing, so I'm not quite sure about that, or why that happens. But it's it's in relationship. Just
so getting back to that question about inner truth and finding the beauty in God is the truth. I imagine that your experience as a therapist, you're pretty good at getting past the smoke screens that people put up, and kind of getting to the truth and the essence of who they are. Mm-hmm. And you must have some therapy tricks that you use.
I think when I'm doing a photo shoot, I just keep working. And then they relax, and the proof is in the pudding when they get to see the pictures at the end, because sometimes throughout the whole process, women don't believe. And so, and all I hope for is that they really love one.
Yeah.
And I take a lot of pictures, so I'll be damned if I can't get one.
What kind of camera do you use?
Well, I have a Canon, and it's a big, heavy lens. It's a really big lens, and so I'm now trying to get lighter weight lenses, because as I've aged, it gets heavier and heavier, and I'm pretty strong, but not as strong as I used to be. So, and I have a lot. I have 3 lenses that I use, and what I often do is I take my phone and set it on portrait mode, just so that, and I give them to the women straight away, just so that they can see, and that I feel is very helpful to them. I love to see. Sorry.
Some people set up a mirror behind themselves so the women can see themselves as they're being photographed, but you don't do that. Show them in the
No. I just rely on me, really, and being in a relationship with that. Yeah. I mean, to me, it's the best thing to be really seen by another person, and particularly another woman when you're in a situation that's pretty stressful.
Yeah. So you live in New York, but you travel around the world taking pictures?
I travel to, of course, I go back to Australia. I'm planning to be there. My youngest nephew is getting married, which is very exciting. So I'm going there in March. And I go to the UK twice a year.
So March of 24, you'll be in Australia.
And then
In case anybody wants to book you, so March.
and then in August, I'm going to be in the UK twice, actually. So, that's where I'll be. Some woman reached out to me, really lovely. She'd seen me on, I think had been following me on Instagram, and she said, "Oh, would I come to Cape Cod?" And I said, "Well, I had no plans to go to Cape Cod." And
Private jet, I'll be there.
Anyway, I said, "Well, do you ever come to New York?" "No, not really." Okay, and then we came up with the idea, if 2 or 3 or maximum 4 women wanted to have their photographs taken by me, then of course the price is cheaper per individual. So that's what she's working on at the moment, to see if she can get 2 or 3 other silver models, and we'll see, and that will be a delight. The wonderful thing that I've experienced through Instagram actually is that the women are often like your best friend, and it's really lovely. When I went to Tucson to meet up with Sally Bass, she said, "Oh, but you've got to come and stay," and and so I did for a couple of nights, and then Judith up in Cape Cod said, "But you can stay with me, because it's like we know each other." It's sort of a funny trust situation, really delightful.
Yes. Do you mind sharing your rates? If in case somebody wants to hire you, what would the rate be?
Well, it depends on what you want. I've just put my rates up. So if you just want basic headshot, that's $250. That's about half an hour to an hour. If you want, there's certain packages that come, and the packages are the silver one, which is I think $500. The what's the next one? I think it's the gold and then the platinum. So the gold might be $750 and the platinum $1,200 or something. And so with that is different outfits. You can, what I say to some women, if they want makeup, I say go to makeup like Sephora, for example, and get a just have a, say you're trying out some makeup for a wedding, you want to do that, and then you may have to buy a lipstick. I think they charge for that now, maybe $60. A friend of mine for a makeup. So basically, but if I have to travel somewhere, then then my travel costs are included in that.
Okay, and also the thing applies. So if in Austin we wanted to get a group of 3, 4, 5 women together, so we'd pay your travel costs, and then you'd come and stay and headshot. Okay, and that would apply for Los Angeles or wherever anybody else is coming in. How much editing do you do on the final photos? Somebody wants to know.
Okay, not a lot, because I don't know how to. Whoever can use Photoshop, you need a big degree in that, because it's major. Yeah. So I use Lightroom, and I just lightly edit. The women like Susan yesterday, who I photographed. I didn't edit her complexion at all. It was a little blown out, the picture, but her skin was amazing, and she had but I like to see the lines. I like to see if you've got a big pimple on the end of your nose on the day, of course I'm going to take that out, but I like to think that I don't do much editing. Part of the reason the woman up in Cape Cod wanted to inquire about me coming to take pictures was that she loved the photographer that she worked with, but they all felt that it was way too photoshopped, and I just don't do that. A, because I don't know how to, and B, because I think it does a disservice to our life. We've earned all of those. I've got huge lines down here, and very sort of crepey, crinkly skin. But, it's like, I lived in Australia and the sun was as hot as hell. So
There's this trend though among like Mimi Rogers is she's not getting any work done. Jamie Lee Curtis, there are a lot of actresses now who are saying, I'm not doing anything, these are my wrinkles, this is me, this is who I want to be. And I appreciate your saying the thing about Photoshop. I think it is important for us to show what real women look like. We had a contest on NextTribe last year. I don't know if you saw that Emma Thompson movie where she got naked in front of the mirror. And so we had a contest. We said, not a contest, but we had a challenge. It was called the NextTribe Real Body Challenge. And we had women send in pictures of themselves naked from neck to feet. And Gina Charleston started it. I did the second one. We've got like people, and it's still up on our website. And we thought, wow, this is really brave and all, but it wasn't about the pictures. It was about the stories that women wrote when they sent in the pictures. They talked about how they felt about their body. We didn't even ask any questions. They just were emoting about, having an older body, what it felt like. And so having an older face in this world today, you're not rewarded, you turn into a ghost, you walk down the street, people aren't flirting with you, it's kind of shocking actually to start to disappear as a woman. And if you as a photographer can capture what we remember about ourselves, the goddess in us, the truth in us, the beauty in us that comes, it doesn't just come from your face though. Isn't it all about the eyes?
I think it's the core, your core, the real core, because actually, to me, when I'm walking out on the street, I don't really care if people look at me or don't. And because I've never been, I was always, I had buck teeth and freckles and glasses when I was a teenager. Who would want to look at me? And I still feel that today that I don't expect that. But what I know is that I've become very visible to myself, and I don't really care, actually. I don't really care if I'm enjoying in the fact that I'm 66, and I've really worked hard to get to where I am. I'm really proud of what I've done for myself. And with the support of my husband, who's been really supportive, and family, and I just, I don't know how to say it any differently, but what I want to offer women is the chance to really see that, wow, that they're just remarkable there, and what they were like. That sort of sense of purpose when they were younger. And what I also notice is that women who have some purpose in their life, like I have the photography, and I'm really working to try and entice women to be photographed by me. It's a real goal of mine to really set that up. When I spoke to Mary from the Pro-Age Woman, she was tired, she was exhausted, and then she started talking about her passion, and she just came alive. It was quite remarkable to see the transformation of that. And so I
Will you put these pictures into a book? Maybe NextTribe would like to publish it.
Well, thank you. I'm sort of quietly working on that. There's a part of me that will say, oh, there's so many books out there. But I'm collecting. I'm collecting, so I'm not sure. But thank you for the offer.
Yeah, I can honestly see it, but it's not just about the pictures. It really is the stories, maybe the little capsule, as you described them to us. That really made that come alive when I was sharing your Instagram feed, because now we feel like we can know these women. Yes. I think it'd be great service if you did it, and I'm like speaking out of turn. Maybe Gina Ralston doesn't want to publish it, but I'm just saying you should. It's right on brand for us. Is there anything else? Any other? if you could just leave us with some practical tips of how we can take our best photos of
Um,
us.
Sure. I it's taken me a while to figure it out, but what I find the best pictures are if we are standing in a doorway or on a veranda looking out to the light. You're
Ah,
completely in the shade and you're looking out to the light. I can bet my bottom dollar that you'll be happy with a portrait or a photograph of yourself, because we want soft light to come, not harsh sun. If you have a hat on, get someone to hold a reflector under here so that it bounces on your face. But I think that that's the simplest way. And often, if you're inside and you have the light of a window, get someone to hold a whiteboard on. So if I'm facing a window over there, so that if it was in the middle of the day, of course, the light would come and hit me on this face, but this side would be very dark.
yeah.
So if someone holds a white card or a white towel, anything like it will reflect light on the other side of your face.
Well, it sounds like maybe when you do your photographs, do you have an assistant with you to do those things, or you're doing it all on your own?
Well, up until I'd say this year, and I had one young girl helping me a lot last year. Most of the time I do it on my own. And so sometimes the women would have to hold the reflector for me.
Yeah, themselves, yeah.
But mostly I did it on my own. Now, in fact, I'm doing a shoot tomorrow with a wonderful woman who was in the construction industry, hard hat, the vest and the steel cap toes. Now she's a silver model, got short hair, amazing skin, and she wears stiletto heels about this high, amazing, and can run in them.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Oh, get a picture of her running. That'll be good. Be good. Well,
So,
thank you so much. It was really wonderful spending time with you today. Susie Lang, susielang.com. Is that it? SUSIELANG.
SusieLangPhoto.com.
SusieLangPhoto.com. SUSIELANG photo.com.
Yes.
Touch with her, you want to set up a photo shoot with her, you look at all those great pictures she's got, she can make all those women look good, she gonna make you look good too. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. It was wonderful. Do you have any last words of wisdom?
I for sure, I think that we all radiate, but it just needs someone in relationship to really bring that out. And there's something about sort of the innocence of that, the innocence of ourselves that we've forgotten. And I'm working hard to try and find that for myself and other women, of course.
Well, it's a beautiful service to women that you're doing. Thank you so much. Everybody follow her Instagram, follow her on you're on Facebook too.
Not so much, but a little bit.
All right, follow her on Instagram, go to her website, look at her beautiful pictures, and hire Susie for your next headshot and your photos. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. You're a member of NextTribe, future member of NextTribe, potential member of NextTribe. We want to support all these women in our age who are doing really cool things. Glenda says thank you. Julie Klein says thank you. It was a great conversation. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Susie.
Thanks, Jeannie. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.